Our modern world pulls our attention in many different directions. We are constantly bombarded with notifications, emails, and phone calls, all while balancing life's uncertainties. So, whether you are a student struggling with academic stress or someone navigating workplace struggles, I know it can get really overwhelming, and I understand that. Cramming for exams, creating presentations, writing papers, meeting deadlines, all while trying to balance family expectations, personal wellness, and relationship struggles can sometimes get a bit overstimulating. Which is why today here I want to share few tips that are really going to help you balance and navigate the stress that you have been experiencing. I'm going to break down what stress really is and give you practical ways to manage your emotions, stay grounded, and create more balance and stability in your life. Living every day with gratitude, abundance, and peace is the ultimate goal. So together, let's hop on and make some lasting changes. Now let's start with the basics. What exactly is stress? Well, stress is your body's physiological and psychological reaction to perceived threats and challenges. Now, I don't mean everyday activities like brushing your teeth or having a conversation with a friend, because that's just regular things. I'm talking about certain situations that feel really demanding and overwhelming on your mind and body. For example, when you have 3 different assignments due on the same day, that's a demand on your time and energy. Or you have a presentation that you have to finish under a deadline. Stress is when your parents are trying to ask you about your future career plans while you're still trying to figure it out yourself alone. Well, that's an emotional demand on your body. When you're running late for an important meeting, that's pressure. So your body cannot tell the actual difference between real and perceived threat, because for your body, it all feels the same. So even to these modern day pressures, your body reacts in the same way. So here's how stress actually shows up in your life. Physically, you might notice tension and headache appears right before a big exam. Or you have trouble falling asleep when you're exhausted because your mind is constantly racing about all the different things it has to get done the next day. Kind of sensation you feel in your stomach when you know a presentation is due tomorrow and you haven't really started working on it. Your body is literally preparing you for a battle, even when the threat might be just an email in your inbox or a presentation to someone or an essay to write. Which is why sometimes as a physiological response, you shut down because your brain perceives a particular task to be very demanding. So without you actually going to problem solve it, the first basic reaction is to make yourself safe. And you do this either by distracting yourself or by procrastination or by escapism. Now, mentally and emotionally, stress creates that same mind-racing feeling. You know when it's 2 a.m. and your brain just won't stop cycling through all the things you have to get done the next day. You find it hard to concentrate, you feel more irritable than usual towards the people you normally love and care about. You're constantly experiencing that underlying feeling of anxiety that something is gonna go wrong. Here's what's really tricky, the behavioral signs. Maybe you're procrastinating much more than usual, which again only creates more stress because you know something needs to get done. Or you're withdrawing from friends, skipping meals, or scrolling through social media for hours to decompress the worst feeling you might get afterwards. The thing is, when we actually sit down to understand what stress really looks like in our lives, we can take better steps to manage it. We don't have to let this stressful thing control us all our lives, because as I said in the beginning, we deserve to live a life which is filled with abundance, gratitude, presence, and joy. We are not going to let stress take that away from us. So the first strategy is cognitive reframing, which is essentially how you think about a particular situation. So instead of seeing your responsibilities as a burden that you have to carry, try shifting to seeing them as opportunities that you get to have. So when you think, I have to study for this exam or I have to do this, what you're essentially doing is you're creating a lot of resistance between your thoughts and actions. But when you just shift your mindset a little bit in a different direction, such as I get to expand my knowledge and work towards my goals, suddenly the same task feels very different because now you're thinking about it in a different way. So the task in itself remains the same, which is to study for exam, but mentally you're thinking about it differently. In the first scenario, when you think that you have to do it, the emotions that you create are resistance. But in the second scenario, when you think that you get to do something to expand your knowledge, now you are suddenly in the emotions of growth, which actually makes you feel a little bit better and inspires you to go and do something.
I have to do this. This is boring. I don't want to do this. Wow, I get to study. Such a blessing.
The more you stay in positive emotions, the easier it becomes to actually get things done. Why? Because you just feel better, and when you feel better, you actually get more inspired to tackle the tasks ahead of you. So here's a quick mental exercise. The next time you feel like you have to do something or that thought pops up in your head, click or snap yourself out of it and ask yourself the question about how can I reframe this as something that I get to do instead of something I have to do. Because remember, having goals to achieve and opportunities to pursue is a blessing in this world where many people face poverty, illness, war, and instability. Turning every opportunity into a moment of gratitude can feel really humbling. Stress doesn't just live in our mind, it gets stored in our body, which is why when you feel stressed, you can feel the tension in your shoulders, the weird feeling in your stomach, or a shortness of breath when you feel overwhelmed. This is your body trying to hold on to stress, and that stress needs to be released. So really simple techniques like deep breathing, gentle movements, or grounding exercises can immediately shift your nervous system from stress mode to a more calmer state. Because when you're stressed, your body gets into the fight and flight mode. So you need to do something physically to bring your body back into the here and now in the present instead of constantly being in the stressful mode. So trying out these somatic techniques can really trigger your system, telling that it is safe and you can relax now. So for example, the next time you feel anxious before an important meeting or before giving an exam, just take a step back and try to do some breathing exercises. You can do box breathing, which essentially means you inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, and then you again hold for 4. And then repeat it as many times until you feel at a much more calmer and relaxed state. Because when you're stressed, you're hurried and you're rushed into something, it's really hard to think straight because all your mind and body is trying to do is bring you to safety. So another practical technique that you can apply to come back to the present moment is in your surroundings, notice 5 simple things that you can see, 4 simple things that you can touch physically, which can be anything like touching your t-shirt or trying to feel your shoes or the surface you're sitting at, anything that makes you engage in that sensation of touching. And then 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing which you can taste. This can be simply like tasting your saliva. But all of these things essentially brings you back into the present moment, because when we are stressed, we are too much in our head and we need to do something to bring our body back into the present. If the positive thoughts don't help, then these simple physical things helps you come back into the moment. Now earlier we defined stress as something that causes excessive demands on your mind and body. So how can we essentially tackle that? By prioritizing and managing our energy levels. Now we know that our energy levels really fluctuate throughout the day. Energy-based scheduling just simply means that doing the most demanding tasks when you have your peak energy. When we are thinking about problematic or challenging situations such as studying for that exam, preparing for that presentation, or thinking about your future or career steps, the best time to tackle all of these things is when you have the maximum amount of energy. Perhaps you can tackle these difficult situations first thing in the morning. So instead of trying to balance every single responsibility at once, just simply pick 2 to 3 most important ones. And how would you pick those tasks? Pick the tasks that would actually help you move forward or that are meaningful to you, and then pay your attention to that. And again, just a quick side note about how to boost your energy throughout the day. Well, take short breaks in between tasks. Eat protein-rich food because that really helps your brain. Get natural sunlight, so go outside a little bit, take a nice small walk or listen to a really good music, and then come back and again start your next focus hour. Now I know when we are overwhelmed, the first thing we want to do is isolate ourselves. And I have done this plenty of times where if something really demanding or challenging is coming up in my life, I isolate myself because I want to figure it out all on my own and tackle that problem using all my own mental resources. But let me tell you, what really helps you is getting some emotional support from the people. You might be thinking that, oh, I'm just burdening other people by sharing my struggles or problems. But no, there are a lot of people who genuinely want to help you. And if your friends don't help you in times of need, then when else would they help you? So quality relationships are literally one of the most powerful stress buffers that we can have in our lives, because having people who understand us, validate us, acknowledge our feelings, or make us feel seen and heard can completely shift the way we perceive stress and how we manage it in our lives. Because these loving connections, be it your friendships or be it your family support or be it from a romantic partner, can not just provide practical help but also remind you that you are not alone in this challenge of life. Because again, to be honest, all of us have gone through a lot of situations in our life that has been really stressful, and it is in these moments of struggles that we can emotionally rely on other people by just sharing and expressing and letting them know that this is what we are going through, allowing them to be there for us, because we didn't come to this planet to manage all our problems on our own. We cannot change our struggles, but we certainly don't need to face it alone. You need to build these connections and relationships because they just don't naturally come to us. We need to actually take a step to prioritize these connections. So don't wait until the last minute to nurture these loving relationships in your life. Regularly check in with the people you care about. So be it your family members, friends, or romantic partner, be in touch with them, communicate with them, let them know how you're feeling, let them be there for you. So again, these were all the tips I wanted to share with you, because again, the older you get, the challenges you face also increase. What you have to do is have these tools and resources available to you so that whenever you face a challenge, you can take care of yourself. Remember, having an abundant, successful, grateful, beautiful, joyful life is your birthright. And that's how you should be living. Do not ever let stress take that away from you. But again, I appreciate your presence and thank you so much for being here. Bye.